I am honored today to be able to introduce our keynote speaker, Daniel Betancourt. Dan is the president and CEO of Community First, a Lancaster-based community development financial institution serving a 13-county area in central and eastern Pennsylvania. Under Dan's leadership, Community First Fund has grown into a successful CDFI, attracting multi-million-dollar investments, including recent investments of $5 million from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative, and a $15 million award under the CDFI Fund's New Markets Tax Credit Program. Dan is recognized as a national CDFI industry leader advocating on behalf of low-wealth communities and especially for persons of color and women. As chairman of the Association for Enterprise Opportunity, Dan has promoted the need for federal funding to benefit small business owners in the low-income communities. Dan has testified at U.S. congressional hearings on behalf of entrepreneurs working in low-wealth neighborhoods, and he was a key spokesman at the 2010 Federal Reserve Bank Small Business Symposium, sharing insights on access to credit and policy recommendations that led to the development of the U.S. Small Business Administration's Community Advantage Program. Recently, he has continued his leadership role as a panelist for the FDIC and CDFI Fund in Kansas City, Kansas, sharing his experiences and guidance to Latino organizations interested in developing loan funds in that state. Dan is also a founding member of a coalition of Pennsylvania CDFIs that work on state policy issues for community development. He is both a good friend and mentor to the First State. His topic for today is Forging the Path of Economic Justice. Please join me in welcoming Dan Betancourt.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be your keynote speaker today. I'm honored to do that. I know this is a wonderful time for you, your 20th anniversary. In fact, my organization had ours last year, so I know it's a special moment, and it's great to see past and present board members and just the energy here today. You know, as I was putting my comments together, it became clear to me how much I admire the Loan Fund and how much we have in common. And I also want you to know, looking at the annual report and also knowing your accomplishments over the years, I want to congratulate you on what you've done here in 20 years. You have a great leader in Van Hampton. He's one of those people. That's exactly the energy I need. Thank you. Van is one of those people in our industry that everyone cheers for. I want you to know that. He's such a gracious and genuine person. You're lucky to have him as your leader. Maybe that's why Ben and I have such a great CEO to CEO relationship. In fact, I can remember a conversation Ben and I had when he first started here, and he told me that First State was primarily providing housing loans in the community here in Delaware, and the board, the staff, and the organization wanted to expand the small business lending because they wanted to go deeper and really expand its services into the community. And so, looking back today, you can see that that was a visionary move. As important as housing is, we all know that it takes a wide range of services to tackle the deep and complex issues of poverty in our community. And as it turned out, the housing market really took a dive into this past recession. And so I think the board's wisdom and Van's leadership really make a difference to keep you strong. So again, I congratulate you for that move. And beyond our personal connection, there are a lot of similarities between Community First Fund and First State. That's a lot to say. In fact, you could say we're cousins. Even our names are similar. So here in Delaware and where I'm from in central Pennsylvania, we're blessed with tremendous growth in our communities. But right in the midst of all that wealth, there's too much poverty in our communities. In fact, we have discrimination and inequity, some of the worst in our entire country. Like First State, we were founded 20 years ago by community and business leaders. They were frustrated by the indignities suffered by poor people, people facing injustice of discrimination. In fact, your tagline in the program and your annual report says it all. That's breaking down barriers and building out communities. It's what your founders knew it would take to turn the tide, and just what both organizations do today. Like you, we received our first investment from the Sisters of Charities and other religious institutions, and that really made a difference because the Sisters of Charities in Philadelphia knew that we had to eradicate poverty and build up our communities. In fact, I saw Sister Nora here today with her colleagues. I want to recognize her. She's here. The birth of both organizations 20 years ago was part of a larger movement. In fact, all over the country, a new kind of institution was born. Community Development Financial Institutions. Community Development Financial Institutions is a fancy name, I know. It's a loan fund for and by the community. They offer access to capital and money, of course, to businesses. I heard some of the ones in the video here, which is great, and also capital to buy a home and live in a great, affordable home. Now, that capital helps individuals have economic stability, but it also continues our vision of economic and social justice. You know, people often ask me why our loan funds are necessary. Because they see us providing loans and capital and all that, loans, commercial loans for businesses, and they say, well, aren't you just like a bank? By the way, my bank friends, I'm not picking on you today, but I want to really distinguish why we exist and how we're different. Well, my answer to that question is, are we like a bank? And I say, because we have sponsors, I have to be nice. My answer is, no, we're not like a bank. It's not about the products that we offer, or the interest rates that you see there, or the collateral that we require, or even our loan conditions. The difference comes down to three key values. The first, who makes the decision and how we make them. The second value is how do we measure our rate of return. And the third value is how our work contributes to economic justice. Well, let me tell you a story about each of these values. The first, who makes the decision and why we make it. CDFIs are different than banks because people approving those loans and organizations are people like me and Van, his staff, and his board who are part of the struggle for economic equality. In fact, we believe in the vision of the Reverend Martin Luther King when he said, the dignity of the individual will flourish when the decisions concerning his life are in his hands, and when he has the assurance that his income is stable and certain, and when he knows he has the means to seek self-improvement. Now, Martin Luther King said those words in Memphis right about the time that I was born. Well, he could have been saying those words to me and my friends in my neighborhood in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. In fact, I can remember a day in third grade. It was early in the school year, September. It was a beautiful day like today. And I was the kind of child in third grade that always was thinking of new ideas. I was really curious. In fact, I remember the maps on the wall in geography class and thinking, I want to go to those places. And I was quite surprised when the vice principal came to my classroom and pointing to me and my friend Mary. And he said that we were to go to the principal's office right away. And so we were led down the hallway, and we had no idea why we were asked to go to the principal's office. Just a minute before, I was daydreaming, thinking about what I would do after school. And now it seemed that we were in trouble, and I couldn't imagine why. When we got to the office, we were told that the teacher was missing some personal items. And right there on the spot, with our hands against the wall, we were strip searched. And Maria and I looked at each other in that moment, and we realized that the only reason why we were singled out was because we were Latino. Now, later that afternoon, I learned from other students talking that the issue that was happening there was that the only thing that was happening was that the teacher was missing a few cough drops. And I learned something more important that day, is that my heritage could be used against me. But each of us in this room deals with that kind of dignity in different ways. I and Van and people in our industry have chosen to work in a place where we have the influence and power to create a level playing field for those who are treated unjustly. So when people say, are you a banker? What's the answer? No, not exactly. The banker's job is about money, about shareholder value, but my business is human human dignity. The second value I mentioned is how we measure our rate of return, our return on investment. And by that I mean how we change people's lives. Let me share another story with you. We make loans to organizations like I-Lead Charter School in Reading, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you read this past year, Reading, Pennsylvania has the highest poverty rate in the entire country, higher than Detroit. It also has one of the highest dropout rates in the entire country at nearly 10%. And I know that's a number, 450 students, when you think about that drop out every year from Reading High. Let me talk to you about one child that I met in charter school. His name is Jose Ortiz. Jose came to the United States a few years ago, lived with his grandparents and go to Reading High. He's a bright kid, but he found, much to his dismay, that most of his teachers didn't stay in the classroom for more than a few weeks. And halfway through the 11th grade year, he finally found one teacher that he could connect with, someone who listened to him, and someone who understood him, who was really there for him. And 3 weeks later, that teacher was gone. He left another school district, with a school district that had fewer challenges. Jose felt the school just simply didn't care about him, so he dropped out. But last year, when he heard about that new charter school opening up in Reading, he was excited because he thought that he could have a second chance. And so over the summer, he helped paint the rooms in that charter school and helped open that. After he enrolled, he really connected. In fact, I got an email from Jose this week and said, I don't know what I'm going to do because now that I'm graduating on June 11th, I'm going to leave my family. However, he said to me that he plans to enroll in Penn State and be a business major. So Van, watch out because we have a successor. But the bottom line is this. We measure our impact by how we change lives like Jose. The third value I mentioned is economic justice. Last year, Community First Fund 2 celebrated its 20th anniversary. We invited Bill Bynum, who's the CEO of Hope Credit Union in Mississippi Delta and New Orleans. He's been a leader in our industry for many years, and he's a true mentor for me as well. He also helps me keep the fight against poverty. As I said, Bill Bynum is a leader. And at a gathering of CEOs around the country, the board of directors of our national association, there was a discussion about what is the core purpose of our industry and our work. And I know that sounds like a simple thing, but the room was silent. No one could really touch or figure out what was the core purpose of our work. And Bill Bynum was calm, and after the room was silent, he started to speak, and he said, in a straightforward Southern voice, he said, well, I know about poverty, about what I want to change. You see, my family comes from Bynum, Mississippi. And that town was named for the folks who owned my family. So I work in this industry to make economic justice a reality. Bill's words really gets to the heart of our work, doesn't it? But there's a lot of things that we do in our industry. We have about 1,000 CDFIs across the United States working in the cities and towns with the highest poverty rate. Collectively, as an industry, we've lent over $35 billion in the past 20 years with a less than 2% default rate. And that's an amazing track record, one that most banks would be proud of, especially during this past recession. Even more important is the impact we've had on the lives of individuals. In fact, we've been able to create over 1.5 million jobs over the past 20 years and finance over 85,000 businesses, provided loans to housing organizations that have built or built over 1 million units of affordable housing. We provide capital for child care centers and charter schools. We've also lent to over 10,000 nonprofit organizations that provide job training and health care to low-income communities. First State Community Loan Fund is a big contributor to those outcomes, so please give yourself a round of applause. Although we've made great strides together as a community, we're far from finished. Too many cities and rural areas still have terribly high poverty rates. In fact, in my community in central Pennsylvania, and here in Wilmington, Delaware, we have over 250,000 individuals in poverty today. We know that children who are raised in poverty have too high of a crime rate in their neighborhood and also go to low-achieving schools. In fact, their parents face high unemployment rates as well as other issues happening in their neighborhood. So that cycle of poverty continues. But I'm an optimist. Daunting as it may be to think about what we need to do next, I'm given hope by CDFIs, just like First State. We're fighting out there and building down barriers and building up communities. So today, I hope I've captured the spirit of these three values for you: how we make decisions, how we measure impact, and of course, how we fight for economic development. This work may not be easy, but there are many days ahead of us, so we have an uphill battle. But if we continue to work together and make good decisions, I know we can change the tide. In fact, I compare our challenge to those of the oppressed people in this country and other people who are also trying to change that and make a better world. I'd like to end with the inspiring words of Frederick Douglass, the great orator who fought to end slavery in this country. Douglass said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain without the thunder and the lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters." This struggle may be a moral one, and it may be a physical one. It may be both a moral and physical one, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without demand. It never did, and it never will. And lastly, it takes strong leadership, a dedicated board and staff, and those in this room to develop Community First State over the past 20 years. This commitment is put into action by your time, your energy, by contributing financially, because it takes more than words to be supportive. Band, I'm so inspired by your work and that of your staff and your board that I want to congratulate you once again. You've had a wonderful past 20 years. I also want to let you know I'm making a personal contribution to celebrate your next 20 years. So, band, congratulations.